So, through this journey of working in the alternative markets, I've realized a key thing whenever I speak to operators consistently. And so, the ones who achieve like exceptional heights are the ones who know themselves, and the ones who kind of struggle and kind of get frustrated. And you can still achieve a good amount of income, but you'll never really exceed your possibility until you understand fully who you are.
Welcome to the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast, the ultimate destination for accredited investors and entrepreneurs seeking alternative wealth building strategies. Discover how to fast track your journey to wealth and time freedom by thinking outside the box. If you're ready to join the ranks of the Contrarian Capitalists and learn the most effective ways to reach your financial goals faster, you're in the right place. Let's get started with today's episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast.
Hey everyone, thank you again for joining an episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast. I am your host and your favorite silverback, Sylvania Harrod, and on today's episode, I'm going to talk to you a little bit different than what I've done in the previous episodes. I want to talk to you about the importance of knowing yourself. So through this journey of working in the alternative markets, I've realized a key thing whenever I speak to operators consistently. And so the ones who achieve like exceptional heights are the ones who know themselves, and the ones who kind of struggle and kind of get frustrated. And you can still achieve a good amount of income, but you'll never really exceed your possibility until you understand fully who you are. So if you guys know anything about me, you know I love sports. I love football. Football is my favorite sport to be able to go through there. And I'm going to tell you a story of two brothers. And these two brothers, you may have heard of them before. They are known as the Kelce brothers, Jason and, as my daughter refers to, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Travis Kelce. And so they were great high school athletes, played multiple different sports. And we're going to start with Jason first. So Jason, the older brother, went ahead, played hockey. And in high school, he actually played linebacker. So he goes, and they're from Cleveland Heights. He walks on to the University of Cincinnati, where he gets the opportunity to go play. And so it was a little bit after his freshman year where he was there, and one of the coaches comes to him and says, "Hey, have you ever thought about playing center?" And he goes, "No, I've never played it. I've been linebacker. I kind of know these things, but I'm the kind of person who just wants to play in the game because I'm not a highly regarded recruit, but I want to learn center." So Jason goes ahead and he moves to center. As he moves to center, he goes ahead, he works his tail off and gets drafted extremely high. So, which is great. Like getting drafted in the NFL is an amazing accomplishment. There's only 253 people who get the chance to do it. So gets drafted as a center. Nobody thinks anything of him. Well, needless to say, he goes on a career that nobody expected him to be there, becomes a Hall of Famer and arguably the greatest center of all time. Let's go to his brother, Travis, aka Taylor Swift's boyfriend, right? So Travis was a high school quarterback. He played quarterback. He went through that process. He also walks on at Cincinnati due to the fact that his older brother is there, has a little bit of influence because he's one of the best players on the team now that he's switched to a position that he should have been playing. So he goes through that process. Travis then, after he gets in trouble, comes back, they move into tight end. He goes through the process. The story may seem a little bit similar. Gets drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. First year, he actually gets hurt. And then all of a sudden, he gets the right coaching. He gets the right mentor in his life. And boom, Travis will go down statistically, and all the other measurements you're going to do versus longevity, as top 2, top 3 greatest tight end that ever played the game. So what does this have to do with you, and what does it have to do with your business? The number one thing, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, is that when I sit down and I'm across from somebody, the people that have accepted themselves and accepted their quirks and accepted the things that come natural to them are the ones who achieve great heights. Some people, the thing is, we have this reality that we're trying to live inside of called the box. It's whatever society tells you you're supposed to be. And so if you look at both of the Kelsey brothers, who will arguably go down as the greatest at their positions, Hall of Famers, more than likely will be the second like unless Eli gets in, but they're going to be one of the very few handful of family of brothers that are going to make it into the NFL Hall of Fame. And all of that was made possible once they accepted who they were. The position at first was kind of unnatural because they were like, oh, I can't do that. How many times have we been told in life, you can't make money doing that thing? But that's where it is. So I'll give you an example. For myself, I am a creative. So I was an artist as a child. And so I always thought like, okay, I was going to do architectural, art. Like I loved drawing cars, doing architecture, going through those processes. And so as an artist, you see things that do not exist currently today. And so you've activated a different part of your brain. Well, you can train it somewhat and you can do other things. Like you can train yourselves in different forms of art. Some people just are wired differently. LeBron James was born to be a basketball player. Other things he can accomplish in life, but there were certain things that were just encoded in him. Any parent of children knows this. You're going to see things that every child is completely different. Come from the same source, raised in the same house, but there is natural things that they're able to do that the other siblings may not be able to understand. So you're going through the wind and changing up your processing, and the only constant in life is change anyway. So through that process, you're going to recognize change, and that's okay. But then the real beautiful thing happens when you recognize why you were wired the way you are. And so in Jason and Travis's example, here's the thing. That's why they are wired the way they were. They were designed for those positions. And now, instead of being like, hey, if I'm in Travis's situation, I'm like, well, I'm a quarterback. I need to be a quarterback. I will force my way and I will push my way to those things to be a quarterback. And you can achieve great things, aka Tim Tebow, arguably one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time, but flamed out in the NFL because he was too stubborn about being like, no, I'm going to be this thing. That happens. Doesn't mean he made it to the NFL doing that, right? But once he got to the league where everybody was the most gifted person they were around, that's where hard work would be there. So he was pushing himself towards it rather than being pulled towards what he really was capable of doing. And so if you look at that, you got to analyze inside of yourself. Who are you? Because are you walking down the street wearing somebody else's beliefs of who you should be? Or can you look back to yourself as when you were a child? Because guess what? When I was a child, I would say I was violently independent. I went to the military because I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to pay for college and how I'm going to do those things. And then as I've grown older, I've realized I don't do really well in boxes. I don't like being a caged bird, which is why I became an entrepreneur. And so the moment I actually embraced that was when amazing things began to happen. And so those things began to happen where it was easier for me to make my way through and be able to have the right conversations, right? And so those right conversations allowed me to talk to you as I'm doing today, right? So it really was a journey of being myself. So take a second, think about it for a second. Are you actually being yourself, or are you still wearing somebody else's shirt? Because the more you lean into who you're meant to be, believe it or not, you'll realize you'll start getting pulled towards opportunities. Me being a creative, I'm in the world of investment design. Why? Because I can see what's possible. I love learning about new things. I'm the kind of person that doesn't want to do one thing. It could be one category, but I need to have constant change and constant improvement because I'm an insatiable learner. But that's who I've been since I was a kid. When I try to put myself in the box of like, oh, I can only do one thing, it actually felt really weird. Now I understand from different mentors and different leaders, you gotta get good at one thing, but that one thing for me was connecting with people and training that level of creativity. And so then you figure out how you value add to the market, and your market will determine is it worthy or not. So in that space, it was a value add of understanding companies because I've loved learning about companies. I've loved learning about like all the process behind it and then building. But I always knew like building one company wasn't going to be my thing. My thing was going to be understanding business, like processes, business models, understanding those things. And so life led me there. And the less I resisted it, the easier it came. And opportunities showed up and the right people showed up. So if you're in a place where you're in a situation where you think, damn, this feels like there's resistance, like there's hard anywhere, no matter where you go, you got to choose your heart. But choose your heart in the thing that you fall in love with and you become insatiable about, that you want to consistently keep doing that. Because sometimes, like I was talking to a person the other day and they were saying they went to school for sculpture design. And their professor told them, congratulations, that's a great place to be. So here's your two options in life. You either have to become the greatest at this and spend 20 to 30 years and make zero money off of what you're doing. Or if you want to be able to do this full time, you got to marry somebody else that's rich because this isn't going to pay you anything. Well, that sculpture design allowed her the opportunity to actually be able to learn about business. So everything that she's done about drawing and modeling and being able to be there all came to fruition because she became an executive coach. And then now she's able to design business models for people who are used to being operators. If you're extremely detail oriented and extremely like you have a little bit of anxiety as a normal thing, that's a great skill. There's a reason why if you look on an NFL team, there's a person who's a quarterback. There's a person who's a running back, person who's offensive line. There's 11 positions on the field. Well, there's 22 if you're doing both offense and defense, not including special teams. So there's plenty of opportunity based upon what it is that you desire to do. So to land a plane, the real thing that I find is that anytime I get in a situation where you're feeling a little bit of like tension or resistance or anything like that in what you're doing, it's because in the micro, all you can see is the things that are around you. And maybe you're living somebody else's plan because of what their beliefs told you was possible. So that's when you move and you shift to the world of the macro. Because anything can happen. I mean, if we look at it, we're all just living in the residual of our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So that being the case, here's the cool part. You can change it. You can look at it and be like, hey, guess what? Maybe where I'm at today isn't where I want to be in 5 years. That's the cool part about life. There's different phases. So if you zoom out in the macro and you say, all right, maybe I'm going to spend 30 days just assessing like, what really excites me now in this phase of life? And every time you find yourself getting lost in something, put it down in your notepad. I guarantee you do that for a month, you come back, you're going to realize a pattern. And there's a pattern of things that excite you at that current moment. Now, the cool part about it is that, like, if you want to earn a greater sense of compensation, you just got to solve bigger problems. That's all. So if you do that, you figure out what's going on, you figure out what excites you, you figure out the thing of the person that you naturally are. And for all you know, you may be doing the thing that you're meant to be. Okay, now you got to serve bigger clients. Maybe move to 80-20, 20% of the clients that are smaller right now, 80% that are larger. Solve their problems. Because if we think about it, currency is nothing but a value exchange. If you're serving, like I always love the analogy of like sports players and teachers. Like teachers are way underpaid, they should be paid more. We are paid in exchange to our value to the market. So while it's a very important job in teaching, I'm not going to demean it, but if you think about it, Who do you think gets paid more? The person who's a math teacher, where you may serve 30 clients, a year? You got 30 students to be able to be there? Or the superintendent who's responsible for roughly 2,000 students, 3,000, 10,000 students? Your compensation is tied towards the level of people you serve. So if you want to have bigger paychecks, you got to serve a larger audience. So that same teacher that was a math teacher, that teacher and different sides began to create like different levels of curriculum that other math teachers could be able to use that were beginners to go through that process so they could be able to learn and have mentorship, and went to a place where they were serving 10,000 teachers. I guarantee their compensation would drastically change as long as they're asking the market for an exchange of currency. So land the plane. The real fun happens in life. It doesn't matter what you're investing in, what you're doing, because everybody has a different investment profile. But the most exceptional people that I've been able to engage with, 100% just accept that they're weird, they're quirks, they're things. Because as a child, you're doing things that fit in. As an adult, you can move to a phase where you can stand out. Just do what you need to do. Fall in love with the things you want to fall in love with, because there are so many people in the world, and because of this great thing called technology, you can find your tribe. Appreciate it. Respect it. As always, if you want to be able to find any of my content, you can find me on all major platforms at Sylvania Harrod. And so, everybody, until the next episode, cheers, everyone.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people ready to explore contrarian investment strategies. Stay connected with us on social media for more expert insights, behind-the-scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. You can find all the links in the show notes. Until next time, stay bold, think differently, and keep pursuing the legacy you deserve. Thanks for listening to the Contrarian Capitalist Podcast.